Hello.
Hi, everybody.
We will be having some co-hosts coming in shortly, running a little bit behind, but we are happy to be here and happy that you're here. If you don't know us, we are the Diversity is Lit book club, where we read one book by a BIPOC author every month, and we talk about it during a monthly live stream, such as today. So let us know if you're here or if you're watching the replay, let us know in the comments. Today we will be talking about our February book of the month, which was our first poetry collection. So very exciting. This is Call Us What We Carry by Amanda Gorman. Such a beautiful book, and I'm so excited to talk about it. There will be spoilers, and I should pull up the
trigger.
While you're talking, I'll pull up the trigger warnings. But if you don't know me, I'm HollyDavis. I'm a kidlit writer working on my YA fantasy. I'm going to start querying again this year to hopefully be traditionally published. So that's super fun. And yeah, I'm happy to be here as always.
And I am writer Alicia Grumley. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram under both of those names. I write poetry, which is why I'm so excited for this one. That's kind of my main projects lately has been poetry. And then I do some YA fantasy, and I do some nonfiction, like mental health advocacy stuff too. So those are kind of big on my list, and I am just so excited to talk about this book. I was so excited that it won our poll, and as the kind of reigning poet of the group of our co-hosts, our regular co-hosts, I am just thrilled because this was my last 5-star read of last year, and then I reread it for the club, of course, and just so great. It's it gets me.
Yeah, that's why we usually have our discussions, like we try to have it the first weekend of the month, but we wanted Alicia to be here because she is, our poet of the group. So we knew we had to have her opinion. Otherwise, this would not be a thing. And Heather's here. And then
hello.
Also, MK Hits is here. Hi, I'm writing while I listen. Well, welcome. So happy to have you here. And Heather came on just perfect timing because Alicia just finished her intro.
It's true.
That is perfect. As you could tell, I'm in my car, which I frequently am for these discussions.
Her shirt is adorable.
It's a 4-leaf clover with paw prints on it. I'm at a dog agility trial, and my youngest dog just did her first run, and she did really well. Perfect. Cute. Qualifying run. So I'm a little sweaty. I am Heather Venkat. I am a young adult and middle grade writer. I mostly write fantasy and contemporary. And you can find me all over the interwebs at WriteHollyDavis.
Yay.
And Holly's twin.
Yes.
And how do you know Holly?
And all of these lovelies are links down below. One of our co-hosts, Vanessa Marie, couldn't make it, but she is also a wonderful person, a wonderful writer, and also has a weekly or monthly diverse author spotlight. So she's also talking about some very important topics. And then hopefully our other co-host, Teresa, will be joining us, if not on screen, in the comments. She is also a wonderful author, and she has self-published quite a few books. So yeah, that's our team. So yes, we are talking about Call Us What We Carry. And as, so I pulled up our trigger/content warnings. This book talks about pandemic grief, racial strife, effects of the BLM movement, and political upheaval. And then we will be talking spoilers, which is weird to say for a poetry collection.
For a poetry book.
If you want to read these and not have a deep dive into the workings.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, I wonder, how do I make it so that we can see our names? I feel like I haven't.
I don't know the answer to that. But...
here we go. Show display names.
Oh, there we are. Perfect.
Oh, hold on, and let me do. that takes it away so that Heather's is shown. Because I realized that during our writer mastermind group, it was like midway through, I was like, where are our names? Oh well.
Oh man.
Everyone knows who you are.
Go ahead.
So I definitely want Alicia to speak first, since I know she's itching to talk about this.
Okay, so I'm sure it'll come as no one's surprise. I loved it. 5-star, 5-star even on a reread for me, which sometimes that doesn't happen. So I am actually, I don't know if you can see my shirt, but it says, "There's always light, only if we're brave enough to see it, only if we're brave enough to be it." And this shirt is the last line from The Hill We Climb, which is the last poem in the collection, which was the poem that Amanda read at the inauguration. And the second I heard that line, I was bawling the whole time she was speaking, right? And it was just like doing this. So I got a couple days later, I set it to my phone background. And I lost my phone last weekend. So it was my phone, my lock screen background, that quote was, from the day I set it until I lost that phone. I haven't reset it yet, but I randomly got this shirt in the mail. And I was texting all my friends and I'm like, who is this from? Because there was no from so-and-so. And I'm asking around, I'm like, do you know who is this from? And finally, one of our mutual friends was like, hey, think, about our mastermind, which I was just on a mastermind call with Holly, not too long ago. And I was like, oh my gosh. So Holly actually sent me this shirt. And it's just perfect to wear for today. It's one of my favorite shirts, but it has the quote on it. And I just, the feeling of that it embodies was just so, it hit me, right? It got me right here. And if only we were brave enough to see it, but it's that dual action. If only we're brave enough to be it. And I think that was why it was so interesting to see that as the last poem in the collection, because I didn't know where that poem was going to be placed, because that had already been released. She had released a mini chapbook of only that poem. And we knew this collection was coming out, and I was reading and reading. I'm like, it's supposed to be in here. Where is it? And then it's the last poem in the collection. Yes. And that is just so, is it going to be the
same
first?
Happened to me. I was like, where is it? And then I was like, oh, that's so perfect.
Mm-hmm. And I think so, because this does go through a lot of emotions that people kind of all over have potentially felt during the last 2 years, which is very, it's very also poignant that we're having this conversation today, because it was 2 years ago yesterday that the CDC declared COVID a pandemic. So for this to come out as reflections on pandemic and what we're thinking and how people were processing, that was just, incredible to me. Because I think that's one of my favorite parts about poetry, is that it gives you this opportunity. It gives me this opportunity as a poet. It gives me this opportunity to take something and zoom in on it as far as I can possibly zoom in on it, and still try and tell a complete story in that 1x1 frame. If I've got a 1 inch by 1 inch frame, that's kind of what a poem is for me. And it's what is this picture telling me? What is this exploring? Is it a feeling? Is it a, moment in time? Is it a movement with Black Lives Matter? What is this poem trying to explore? And I know so many people don't love poetry and they don't understand poetry, but I think so many people have kind of been misled that poems have to rhyme. And not all of Amanda's poems rhyme, and I mean, the girls have heard so many of my poems over the years. And they're always more surprised when I throw in a rhyming one, because most of the time I don't, right? And you can tell these incredible stories. And I think one of the reasons I love poetry so much is when I was first introduced to it, my mom wrote poetry. So there's a big connection there. And my poetry teacher in high school kind of described it as supercharged Kool-Aid, right? Like each poem is like you're in Kool-Aid, you want that punch, you want that like sugar rush of like it's buzzy, it makes you feel something. And I think there's so many in here that make me feel things, and there's so many lines that I wish I had written, and like I would just love to like sit down one day and just like pick Amanda Gorman's brain and be like, ooh, like what do you do? What do you do for the poems? And how many times did she have to rewrite these? Because a lot of times for me, my poems, I just pen them and I'm kind of done with them unless I'm like working through a collection. But I thought the way that she tied this collection through was really well. And one of the ways I thought she did that was I made a note of any time in a poem where I noticed the phrase, any part of the phrase of the title. So like call us, or like carry, or carried, or what we carried, or, you know, like any time I saw those notes. And I thought it went, like she did a really good job of figuring those out. And like, I mean, I first kind of started noticing it on page 29. And there's a line, what we carry means we survive. Like, oh, what we carry means we survive. And then, you know, it ends with 202 with what we carry. Like that whole poem, the penultimate poem is called What We Carry. And so that is a way that like I thought she tied these poems together into a collection really nicely, because you see that motif running throughout the poems in so many ways. Yeah, and like on page 42 there's a line, call us who we left behind. And so like the concept of it's the people, you know, it's the people and the love that we carry, like that's what we carry as a motif, as a whole collection, I thought was really nicely well done. Really nicely well done. Was really well done. About this, sorry. Yeah. So
I love that.
Jump in, please feel free to jump in, ladies.
Yeah, I was really excited about this because, you know, other than reading, I've read some self-published poetry collections here and there from finding other writers on Instagram or YouTube. But most of my poetry exposure as of late has been just from you, the poems that you have shared, the Dandelion collection that I beta read. So it was really refreshing to read something different and kind of look at words with a different lens than kind of like the writerly, like save the cat brain that I have. But so it was more enjoyable in that way because I knew that there was going to be meaning behind every word that she picked, because there was less words to say. So everything wasn't extraneous. And so I also gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. I thought it was so like refined and well written. And I didn't think about that like, yeah, how many times did she have to like rewrite these poems or rework it or change a word? And so that would be kind of interesting to hear, you know, because we hear about that with like fiction, you know, like novelists and stuff, but what about poets? So, and then the other big thing that stuck out to me was kind of like what you said, Alicia, that a lot of my exposure to poems have been like rhyming poems. And I had been telling Alicia that in high school, when I would write poems, they would always rhyme, you know, but I found the power in it not rhyming because maybe there's a word that fits better and is more powerful and it's not going to make the line rhyme. So I found that I was really enjoying that. And I found, that I just enjoy, you know, these poems that don't rhyme, because similar to a lot of Alicia's poems, Amanda Gorman has like so many just like mic drop lines.
I knew that's what you were going to say. I knew that's what you were going to say.
That's what I call hers. Like there'll just be this like punch at the end. It's just like, oh, and you just go,
just like, oh, like I almost have to like fold in on myself when I
this is like nasty, like, oh, that was so good. And, just and it feels good when you have something that's like that.
Right.
Yeah, I also loved it. I was really glad when this was chosen to be the book, because I don't read that many poems anymore, and I had a great appreciation for the way that she writes, because then I was remembering like things that I learned like in English class back in high school. I was like, oh yeah, like alliteration and this and that. Like, there was a line, I think it was even just in the first poem, it's like halting like a headless haunt in our own house. Our words, water dragging down a windshield. Our greatest test will be our testimony. And I was like, oh, this is so good. And so even just like, even if I didn't quite understand what she was trying to say with the words, I appreciated how she was saying it. And a few things is, I was trying to kind of pick apart the 7 kind of category sections that she had to see like, okay, is there like a specific theme? Like it seemed like almost like the poems sort of shift a little bit with each grouping, but I thought, that was also a nice style. So, because it kind of did like break it up a little bit, almost like chapters. And so it's not just like poem after poem after poem after poem, even though that is what it is.
Right.
And then I liked at the end, she had the like notes where she kind of like explained some things or a little bit of like inspiration for certain lines, so you could like kind of delve into that a little bit deeper. But I really enjoyed it because I felt like even though there was no story or characters, it's almost like, you're like you have to put yourself here and find the characters and be the character. And so I thought it was great. And at the end, Alicia, what you were saying with like whether or not she rewrites, does she just write it straight and that's it? I'm not really sure, but I know like she was even saying how she had a friend or family member like, take care of her because she kept getting sick because she was working so hard on this.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it's very clear. It was clear to me that she wasn't like, I mean, not that like any writer is, but like this definitely isn't like lazy or easy writing. Like, everything is intentional. And like I said, even if I didn't completely understand everything, I really appreciated that craft.
Yeah. Well, and this is a tidbit for like that's fun, especially for the two of you. She's a twin. Amanda Gorman's a twin.
Really? I didn't know that.
She is. She is. So that's like a fun little tidbit. And she was raised by a single mom, and which she says, in The Hill We Climb, she talks about like a skinny Black girl descendant from slaves could dream of being president, now speaking for one, like raised by a single mom, like just so good. But yeah, like so like when working on a collection, I will find myself rewriting, but that, Heather, I think was a really important thing to bring up, because people think like, oh, it's short, it's easier to write a poem. It's so not, you guys. It's so not.
Yeah.
Like the crossing out and like, trying to pick that exactly perfect, powerful word, and, like which way. And I mean, so one of the things she does really well in this collection, I am like 10 stars, right? Really well, is the way her syntax, and that's why. So Holly, you listened to it and you read it, correct?
I was going to listen, but I only read.
Okay. And then Heather, what did you do? Did you read
I just
or listen?
read it. Oh, I should have listened to it.
Yeah, definitely listen to it if you can, because anytime you can hear her speak her words, it gives them different weight, because the way that you read it is different than the way that she would perform it. And I read it and reread it. But, the way that the syntax plays in on the page, and can we just start picking one to talk about? Can I pick one? Okay, so I really want to talk about Fury and Faith, starting on 155. And the thing that's most interesting to me about that, right, is it starts on 155, and you can see it in the book right here. You can see it right here. And it goes from dark, like the pages are black, dark, all the way to light. And it's like this, like this deep rage And then it ends with like how our hope is the light. And it's just so beautiful.
I didn't notice that. I have chills.
If you're looking at it, 155 is dark, 156, 157 are dark, and then on 158 it starts graying. It gets gray. And then on like 161 it's a little bit lighter, and then on 163 it's lighter still, and like it's working its way all the way back to the light. And I thought that was just such an incredible part. And like, because poems aren't just the words, they're how they're arranged on the page. It's all about the syntax. You know, you don't get to explore that as much. And I think that's another thing that I love about poetry so much, is that it is so non-confining. So I'm an Enneagram 8, so I don't like being confined, right? Like, don't like that. But it also plays to my 7 wing, because I can play. I can always play with the way the page is designed, with the way that the words are like lined up, with the shapes that they make. And so like, I think that, to agree with Heather's point, I think you can tell that she really had a large hand in the design of this book, because I don't think you can create a book of poetry without that like author's stamp on it. You know, like there's certain things where she was like, no, like I wrote this like in this shape, like I want this shape maintained, or like, you know, like there's some like earlier on where she's like, this is like the shape of a slave ship, you know, like the ships that carried slaves. And like, even on
there was
page,
like, it was a fish.
Yep. There's a fish, there's a mask, there's a vase, there's the flag.
The flag, yeah.
So it's not just the words that you put on a page. It's how you put the words on the page that matter for poets too. And yeah, like I just, like I loved that it went from dark to light, and how like that idea of fury and faith are two sides of the same coin. Like you need both, like, which really is speaking to me right now. You know, like I'm enraged about how things are happening, and I'm a white woman, like, you know, so like, you know, like there's weirdness for me there of like how much claim do I have to this rage? But I am enraged that more people aren't enraged, right? So like there's that. And like I understand that that's my privilege, right? And I'm 100% like laying that on the table. That is 100% my privilege. And but like you're furious, but you get to have the faith too, you know. And like there's the faith, and like at the end it's like the truth of 170. The truth is, one world wander awed, raw with revelation, much say a prayer. May such a prayer, a people, a peace, a promise be ours, be right and radiant and real. And like the idea that fury and faith are real, you know, like you can have both existing at the same time. That's what poetry does for people. That's the things that it highlights, that says like the same reasons that we read, you know, we read to find pieces of ourselves. I believe that. I've said that how many times during discussions. I read to find pieces of myself in the world. And poems, I read them and I write them to remind myself and everybody else that they're not alone. And it's just so good.
I think too, like I really liked the last page of that of the Fate and Fury, or the Fury and Fate, the libations, because you could read that poem vertically and horizontally, which I thought was so cool. And like you had to figure it out, because I was reading and then I'm like, well, where do I go next? I'm like, oh, that works. Oh, that works too. Oh, that also works. And so it was just it was cool, because it made you figure things out and have to be clever. So I think that layout's important with the structure that she has, because it's not, like you said, it's not just the words that give meaning, but how it's presented. And like even on page like 51, how, you know, she could just say, sometimes the fall just makes us more ourselves, but then she actually has the words fall, you know.
I didn't even catch that.
The 171?
No, the 51, the fall. The fall just makes us more ourselves. Yeah, and I think there's one too where she's got them like climbing up a stairs. There's one at some point where the words, I can't remember exactly where it is, but they're like the words like climb up a stairs, and she's like saying like we ascend kind of thing.
Oh, I wonder if I can find that one. So yeah, I just like found it so that's why I wanted to read the book, and then I didn't even think about listening to her like say the poems, because I knew that there was such an interesting format that I wanted to, you know, not miss.
Right.
Like even like 192 with the hangman, just so clever.
Yeah, like I love that. And like I love on I think it's page 9, the one that's a text stream back and forth. And I love seeing that because I've written a poem in text before. So I was like, oh, like that's a fun thing. Like, you know, like to see that. And it's at first, and it's like you're texting, and she's like talking through the pandemic. Like at first there were no words for what we witnessed. When we talked to each other, our sentences were stilted and stalled as a telegram. Hope we are doing well, as we can be, in all these times. Unprecedented and unprecedented. Yes. And the way she plays with words and syllables is very, very Lin-Manuel Miranda to me. Like in Hamilton, I mean, we've all heard, read, seen Hamilton at this point, right? And it's like, you know, it makes me think of like the Burr part. So with Hamilton, I listened to the soundtrack before I ever saw it performed anywhere. So I was only listening to it. And I have this thing about me where I don't like to do things just because they're popular. I kind of like distance myself from things that are like very, very popular intentionally, so I can kind of make my own decisions about them. And so it was quite a while before I had listened to it after it had gained popularity. And I just remember sitting there, I was driving, I was on a road trip, so I was able to listen to it all in one go. And I remember like listening, and the line where Angelica is like, Burr, you disgust me. And he goes, so you've discussed me. I'm a trust fund, baby. You can trust me. You know, like just hitting that beat is so impressive. And I feel like she emulates a lot of that in how she plays with the words and how she hits those syllables, and how everything, like Holly was saying, is so powerfully and intentionally put together.
Yes. I'm just highlighting Vanessa is here. Hi, Vanessa. Thank you for popping in. Appreciate it. And she said now she's inspired to start working on a poem.
Yes, please share it with me if you feel so inclined at any point, Vanessa. I would love to see it, hear it, read it, anything that you would like to do. But I'm glad to hear that you loved it, because I think most people know that Vanessa and I do not usually agree on our ratings. So Vanessa, I gave this a 5. And the other girls did too. Heather, you gave it a 5? Oh, she might be frozen. Heather, if you can hear me, let us know if you gave us a 5. Yeah, so it's funny when Vanessa and I agree on something. So if that helps you decide, do you think you'll like it? We both have very varied tastes in writing and reading, and we're often diametrically opposed. And for another Hamilton reference, as it were. So I'm glad to see that she also loved it.
Yeah, so Heather's having some technical issues, but I was just asking her if she wanted to try popping out and back in, seeing if her connection will be less angry.
Vanessa gave it a 4.
Vanessa gave it 4.
Yeah. Still, like that's high, you know, for like we're not usually that close either in our ratings.
Yeah. What you were saying, Alicia, about the choice of words, and you know, that was kind of fun for me once I realized, she's really good at doing this, which I had already seen from
The Hill We Climb.
Yeah. But like even like prophet, like she said, we are no prophet, like PROF. Oh God, yeah, PROFIT
dollars, yeah,
PROPHET. So it was just like, wow, like what, like even just that, I was just like blown away.
I think one of the best places she did that for me was on page 161, which is part of Faith and Fury, or Fury and Faith. Let's see. Is that right? Yes, it's part of the poem Fury and Faith in the section also titled Fury and Faith on page 161. And it's the first stanza on that page. And I'm just going to read it. A nation's cold pride will kill, choke us on the very spot we shadow. This is also called chauvinism. And for anybody that remembers, Chauvin was the police officer who murdered George Floyd. So like, and she's got it in brackets. The ism is in brackets. It's like, this is also called chauvinism.
Oh my gosh, I did not catch that. Wow.
It like stopped my heart. I was like, oh, whoa. Girls got it. Like, girls got it on lock. And like, she really has this, there's something about poetry that like your brain is spinning in about 4 different directions at a time. To like say like, oh, I can take this stanza here, I can take this stanza here, it'll connect back, you know. And she has several poems that are like arborescent 1, 2, and 3. So it's almost like the tree is growing as the poem grows. And like, I can't say enough about the collection. Somebody else say something so that you've got other things.
Let's see if Heather can. Yeah, we'll give Heather a chance to see if her connection will
if it'll work for it.
Maybe as she starts talking. And Vanessa said she loved that line.
Yes.
I'll just tell her you can try unmuting and talking. Poor Hev. She might have to do what I did when I couldn't talk.
Comments, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Frozen.
I just tried unmuting you, Hev, because you're still muted. Oh no.
I don't know. Hopefully she'll be able to pop back on or something.
Oh, there we go. Okay, she's unmuted now.
Okay. And Vanessa asked if anybody had listened to the audio. None of us here did, Vanessa, but if you did, let us know.
Now I want to, and I don't know, because I have my Libby, the Libby app, which is like library ebooks and audiobooks, but I also have a Scribd subscription, so I have to see if it's on either of those.
One of my friends mentioned that she just got through listening to it, and she like texted me and she's like, hi, do you have a copy of this? I'm like, actually I got 2 for Christmas because my birthday is this week. And she's like, I'm going to send it to you if you don't have it. I'm like, here's the thing, I already have 2 copies.
That's hilarious.
It was funny.
Can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
Okay, I can hear you and see you now. I don't know why it's going in and out. My connection.
Yeah, tell us.
Okay, I don't know if you've already talked about this, but I had an appreciation for, it seemed like there were a few poems that were kind of COVID related, and you know, I wanted to kind of, or I assumed that, but maybe not. But I enjoyed those. Like one of them was the where is it? 17, The Lighthouse, page 45, where she goes, where is it? She goes, this year was no year. And then the imprint of warmth. When next generations ask, we will say it was something like this: the empty creaking playgrounds, bodies laid straight as celery stalks, the imprint of warmth, holidays, gatherings, and people gone to rust in our acrid skull. And then she also says, whole months swept by fast but dragging. On the next page. And you know, I'm like, that just hit me because, like, you know, COVID has been a struggle for everyone, but especially for me, like, that whole month have swept by fast but dragging was like the perfect way to describe it. And like, she knew exactly like how to, like, you know, relate to people. Like there's one poem that talks about the Zoom zombies that and she calls them Zoombies, and I'm like, it's true. Like, we're just in this virtual, we have to meet with people virtually now, and we just kind of become numb, and we can't really. I mean, now maybe we're starting to interact with people more in person, but we haven't really been able to. Or I think the poem before that in the Deep even says, don't we recognize all the ways normal can sputter and die? And a lot of things can allude to that, but I immediately thought of COVID, because I'm like, yeah, like our normal was like turned completely upside down, and it's just but I'm glad that she acknowledged it, because a lot of books right now are not
Oh, you're kind of frozen, Hev.
Yeah, but I'm guessing she was
I mean, there are a few books that are being published where it's like people have to wear masks and all the stuff, but writing that's like mentioned the pandemic and how it's affected us.
Yeah,
and then before I get out, before my connection goes out, I'm just gonna mention one more.
Go ahead.
Maybe.
Come on, connection. Let Heather finish.
We've got it. Come on, get
you can do it.
Even though I like the I'm gonna pronounce it wrong. Or 49 Hephaestus.
Oh yeah, Hephaestus. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, can you hear me?
You're like kind of going in and out.
Oh, I'm back, I think.
Yeah, you are now.
Yeah. Okay, so for Hephaestus,
one short moment in time. It's okay, Heather.
Real quick. Yeah, no worries, Heather. That's the one that talks about the fall just makes us more ourselves, Holly. That's the end of that.
Yes. Oh, Heather left. The one where she was saying in the Deep about COVID, I was really hit by on page 40. It starts on page 40. And there were two lines that really hit me, and one of them, so the one on 41 at the end says, "Let no one again have to begin, love, or end alone." And that just really broke my heart, because I had a couple patients working as a physical therapist who were older and passed away, and they had to be alone. They couldn't they couldn't have the funeral, they couldn't have people like celebrate, have a celebration of life or anything. And so like that really hit me, because I was like, oh, that was just very heavy hitting way of saying that. But then also on page 43, she says, "Our wounds too are our windows. Through them, we watch the world." And so, I just thought that was beautiful, because like, that's how we learn and grow. And how we see the world is through the things that we've been through and the things that we've overcome. And the wounds become scars, and there are reminders of, and how we go about our lives. So yeah, I just thought those were really powerful.
Yeah. That whole poem, she does a really nice job of like this continuum of this push pull, creating this tension, because the couple lines before what you just said is our laughter can stomp up from nothing. And I've like remember that too, like just like those moments of just like what in the heck is happening, you know, like, where are we? Or like for me, something like early on in the pandemic, like I bought a brand new desk. It like in remember, do you remember that?
Yes.
And I got a great deal on it. And I was also supposed to be like changing apartments because my apartment complex was renovating all the apartments on the property. And they were like, okay, you have to move. So I like got the like, okay, you're moving out this day. And then like a week later, the shutdown happened. So they're like, everything is paused. But in the pause time, I bought this desk. And it was, I mean, it's a big desk. Like it's where I am typically sitting, you know, it's big, like big. And I bought it sight unseen, didn't have any measurements. And I remember like texting my boss and was like, hi, I bought a desk and I need your help to come and get it this weekend. And then 3 weeks later, I knew this was going to happen. I'm like, as soon as I get this desk in here, they're going to tell us it's time to move again. Sure enough, 3 weeks later, we were moving everything. Like,
yeah, that's right.
like that line is like, oh yeah, like that, like is very like it resonates because like, I mean, it was either laugh or cry, you know, and I mean that's a general mode of emotion for me, but like just like that idea of like we have nothing to laugh about right now, but this is hilarious, you know, and like looking back on it, and like even a couple lines down, we prayed for a miracle. What we got was a mirror. No,
oh gosh.
But it feels very Encanto to me, right? It feels like very that last line or like that last song in Encanto, like the miracle was you the whole time. And like I was talking about this very recently with some friends about how for all of the horrible things that the pandemic caused, it's been cool to see the good things that have come of it too. The way people have reconnected, the way businesses have innovated, you know, the way that people have been able to be more family focused. Like, so not that I want those lessons to come at the price of all the lives lost. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it is, and I think we as humans are kind of programmed, like we have to find the positive too. And yeah, like I think she does a really nice job of like creating that tension of like putting you on a tightrope as a walker, like or as her audience, you know, like a tightrope walker, and putting you in that scene.
Yes.
Vanessa says her favorite poem was Pan, and it's the one in the shape of the vase on 71. Yes, Vanessa, we did talk about how some of those, like the syntax of some of those was awesome. And did you have a favorite line in there, Vanessa? One of us could probably read it out loud. I really like, we all need places to lay down our grief. Where else to put it? That vessel held all plague, all pain, and all hope. Don't panic. There's just too many. Yep. And like, there's the, like, what are we if not the curiosity to open the coffins we carry, right? So there's that we carry.
Yes. Oh, Heather says she's in the chat. Did you get my text? My phone is over here. Yeah, Vanessa especially loved the last line.
Yeah. It's so many good parts.
So Heather, okay, she says she was just going to mention page 45. Hephaestus is the Greek god of blacksmith carpentry sculpting, which is a fitting title for the poem talking about molding ourselves into who we need be. Quotes are, sometimes the fall just makes us note ourselves, aka we can grow stronger from the hard times, and then also the line, we come to the light before we become more than our shadows. Oh, that is beautiful.
And yeah, like, and Hephaestus too, like he has a hammer, right? So you're like, it's not a gentle molding. It's not a molding out of clay, right? Like there's a very distinct difference here. Like, 'cause you can mold clay into a vase. You can mold clay into cups. You can mold clay, but that is gentle, you have to be gentle. Hephaestus is not gentle. Hephaestus is forged in fire. Hephaestus is metal clanging, hammering. Blacksmithing is you have fire involved. So there's going to be some pain involved with that. So yeah, that is not once again, a very intentional choice, but it is not a gentle type of molding yourselves, because if you're throwing a pot on a spinning wheel, you got to have a firm touch, but you got to be very gentle with it. And I think Hephaestus type of molding has to be intentional too, but you got to know that there's going to be force behind it. Yeah, Heather, no problem.
Wow, that's so powerful.
I like Greek mythology, so I was I'm into this, but I'm glad that you mentioned that part of it, Heather, because it's not and I think that talks about the pandemic too, right? It was not gentle for me. It did not feel gentle. There was nothing about that felt gentle, or I'm talking about it like it's completely over, but it's not, I think we're going to have to deal with the trauma from it for quite a while as a society.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was not a gentle reshaping of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's important too. These make us look within ourselves, and kind of like she said, they're the windows to to the world, and that's what these poems are doing. And I'm curious, I don't know if there is anywhere that says which poem it is, but I really was one of the ones that stood out to me was the letters on page 91. Lin-Manuel Miranda's response. In a letter I received from you 2 weeks ago, I noticed a comma in the middle of a phrase. It changed the meaning. Did you intend this? One stroke and you've consumed my waking days.
And that's an Angelica line too. It's in the second act. It's very shortly. Yeah, because she's she goes on to sing about, it's my dearest Angelica, and with the comma after dearest, and did you mean dearest, or did you just misplace the comma? And so that's an Angelica Schuyler line too.
Oh wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Comma after dearest. Yeah.
Vanessa shared one of her favorite lines yesterday on Instagram. It's on page 84.
Okay.
Yeah, I had shared that on the Diversity is Lit page because that was awesome. Let me see.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you've got that one, I could close my eyes and point and be like, oh yeah, I love this line.
Yes, all of it.
There's this part on 84. We can only fully understand language by what doesn't survive it. There's so many parts. And Vanessa says the oppressor will always say the oppressed want their overcrowded cage cozy and comforting as it is.
Yes, I had highlighted the two lines under that. A racial insult renders us a mammal, albeit less free. In short, a slur is a sound that beasts us.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way she phrases that, oh, you're less free than a mammal with your racial slurs. And whoa, that is just powerful.
Mm-hmm. And on 85, it's kind of over in the middle of that last column. Ignorance isn't bliss. Ignorance is to miss, to block ourselves from seeing sky.
So the other thing that I want to talk about that really struck me was the letters from the 1918 influenza epidemic, and how when I was reading it, I was like, this is so scary, because I feel like all of this could be written right now, because everything was exactly the same. And so it was just this chilling deja vu. It was crazy. and how she turned like the plumber's letters into turned it into prose, was just so striking. I knew people like, oh, the Spanish flu, this and that, but I'm like, wow, well, someone could have just written that nowadays.
Right. Yeah, there's so much there. Yeah, like God, the symmetry, coughing into their coffins. Life takes breath away. That's on 105. It just,
oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. So Heather, I like to your point earlier. Yes, there are. I mean, you could say almost every poem is pandemic related, right? So, I mean, you weren't misinterpreting that. I would confirm or feel like, like, because once again, these are intentionally put in the collection.
The part on page 121 talking about like war, kind of fitting for what's going on right now, and our colors of diversity is kind of in support of Ukraine.
Right.
But that part says the body is a walking chaos of meat and bones. Deaths and injuries in armed conflicts are called casualties. Casual, meaning by chance or accident. But bloodshed in war is no misfire. Perhaps casualty means that war itself is the accident, unmistakably a mistake. Our big, fat, bloody oops.
So many parts. And yeah. I think too, back to the letters on 106, the bottom stanza on 106, we might stay a while because they don't kill us here bad as they do back home.
Oh, chills. Oh my gosh.
Right. To like choose to stay in a war zone rather than going back home because you feel safer in a war zone. There's a problem. Yeah, right? Like, there's a problem here.
Oh, that just like made me, that
right.
just gave me some feels.
Yeah.
So, Vanessa quoted, "Those who don't know their history will be doomed to repeat it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and Vanessa's favorite, she said, is the pan, right? And like that's one shape like the vase, and like all the ways that Amanda plays with that prefix, at the beginning throughout the collection: pandemic, pandemonium, panic, and she even has a poem about that, and I can't quite figure.
Was that the one that Vanessa was talking about? Page 70?
So, because that was the one in the shape of the vase. There's another one. It might just be called.
Because that was pandemic, pandemonium, Pandora, pan.
Mm-hmm. There's another one.
Yeah, there was another one.
I'm just trying to see if I can find it in my pages. But yeah, there's definitely so many notes where I'm like, oh, the last line, the last line, the last line. So yeah, to your point, I do love mic drop moments of last line. And that might be one of the reasons why I have enjoyed this collection so much, because there are so many of those.
Yes. Ooh, good. Heather's going to be writing up a good wrap-up quote.
Mm-hmm. I have one that I want to pick. Yeah, I have one that is my wrap-up quote too.
Ooh.
It's hard to pick just one, but
I know, my goodness, I couldn't pick a favorite. From Another Nautical, page 36.
Okay.
That's what only words can do: prod us towards something new, and in doing so, move us closer together.
And together, there's the arrow in between. Closer, together. It's like closer, space, arrow, together.
Yes.
So once again, playing with the syntax.
Oh, relationship. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, we could talk about this one. This is one I could talk about forever.
Great one.
I have enjoyed it so much, and I'm so glad to get to talk about it here with our club because it's just so incredible. Yeah. Oh, do you have a wrap up, Holly?
Oh, shoot, that's tough. I think, gosh, no, they're all
They're all too good.
they are like it literally.
Do you have any other like comments you want to add, or like?
I'd just be gushing. No, I just like this was really good. And actually, so from reading that, I was at Five Below just getting some random things, and then I saw they had a stand with all these books, and so then I actually got a couple Enneagram ones. That's just
nice.
an aside, but I was like, ooh, Enneagram things. But then I saw this, Somebody Give This Heart a Pen.
Ooh.
By Sophia Thakur, Thakur. And at the top it says, by Angie Thomas, she said, "The power of her words will affect generations." And it's actually a poetry collection.
Nice.
And so I was like, boom, auto buy, because I'm like, I am ready for more. And then
well, that's a good, like, I'll do my wrap up quote here in just a second, but that's a good segue to say, like, April is National Poetry Month. So maybe you could here's the 8 buzzword, challenge yourself to say, I'm going to read one poem per week, something like, or I'm going to try and write one or something, like, just because April is National Poetry Month. Or maybe you could read the collection if you didn't have a chance to read it with our group. I'll be doing some things over on Instagram for National Poetry Month especially. So if you want to follow me there, if you're interested in expanding your poetry stuff. Hope that was okay that I gave that plug there.
Oh yeah, most definitely. For sure. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and I might be going live on YouTube stuff, but so it's great that you're excited to read more poetry. And I think that's what a poem can do for you too. Like, because it's not just this author, it's other authors. And Vanessa said she had to go, but she loved hearing some of our thoughts. And
I forgot we started on the 50. So because I was like, oh, we wrap up. What did you? Oh
yeah, we're getting close. So this is my last thought about the book for this discussion. But please, if you want to talk to me about it, like, hit me up in my DMs. You can find me anywhere. Like, I would love to talk to anybody who wants to talk to me about this book because I love it so much. So this is on page 198, Arborescent 3, or Ellipse. We do not hope for no reason. Hope is the reason for itself. We don't care for our beloveds for any specific singular logic, but rather for the whole of them. That is to say, love is justified by loving.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Stop giving us the feels, Amanda.
Keep giving me the feels. For me to say that, it's okay.
Yeah, we want all of the feels.
Because I'm the one that's always like, no more feels. Did you see how good I did? I didn't even raise my shoulders to do time.
Yes, we also if you do want to discuss more, we do have our forums on the Goodreads group, and we have a specific thread for Call Us What We Carry. So feel free to carry on the discussion in there. And then please join us for our March book club discussion, which will be in early April, which is for All My Rage by Saba Tahir. This just came out on March 1st, so it's very fresh, but it's about 2 Pakistani teenagers, and there's like 2 different timelines. So I actually haven't started it yet, but I'm really excited to dive into this. So please join us for that.
And happy International Women's Month.
Yes.
Very large. Happy International Women's Month. And Teresa, I know you had some other things that were going on. So if you get a chance you want to watch the replay, we would love to see any of your comments, because I would love to hear what you think about this. as
For
well.
sure. Yes. Thank you, Heather. Sorry you had to pop out, but I'm glad you were able to make it into the comments and that Vanessa was able to make it in the comments. And thank you so much, Alicia, for all your insights.
Well, thanks for letting me gush about it for an hour.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you next month.
Bye.